You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. Guitarist Daniel Bolshoy is a well-traveled concert soloist, recitalist, and avid chamber musician committed to the proselytization of his instrument. A senior lecturer in the Hugh Hodgson School of Music at the University of Georgia, where he directs the guitar program, Bolshoy brings his undeniable talent to the outstanding roster of Agassiz Chamber Music Festival artists this year. Daniel has joined me in the Classic 107 studio this morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Well, unlike the past three Agassiz guests we've had in studio this week, you are not a first-time visitor to Winnipeg. You've been here before, played with the Manitoba Chamber Orchestra as part of the Winnipeg Classical Guitar Society and the Women's Musical Club of Winnipeg. How's it feel to be back in town?
It's great. I don't know where all the snow is. I'm always here in the winter, so I can't imagine Winnipeg without minus 30 weather and 2 feet of snow or something, or 2 meters of snow, really.
We even have a little bit of that Georgia humidity that we
That's right.
we brought up for you, too.
Yeah.
There was a little while here in town where you were making almost like an annual pilgrimage to the city in like the early 2000s. Is that the last time you were here, 2007 thereabouts, or am I forgetting a trip?
No, I was here. I was coming through here on tour. I think I was thinking about it the winter of 2017. I think
it was 2017.
Yeah.
Well, you've been a regular here in town, and I think that Winnipeg audiences will remember you not only for your outstanding musicianship, but also the way in which you present concerts, really breaking down that barrier and introducing these artists. And that's all part of your mandate, right? To just try and make the guitar and the music more accessible?
Yeah, I don't do it consciously. I just feel like guitarists always do that. If you go to a bar and you have a singer-songwriter play, they always will say a few words. And I kind of always did it without thinking about it. And people comment on that like as if that's an unusual thing, but I never really realized that it was. So yeah, it's just something I enjoy doing. I mean, there's so much interesting information behind the pieces, so why not share it, right?
Hey, I appreciate it too as a radio host. I mean, hearing those stories that you dig up too, right? I mean, that's just part of the business that I think we're both in is making this music accessible and breaking those barriers down. And I think what's cool is it also sort of removes that formality, right? In terms of the concert, when all of a sudden the artist is talking with you and making you laugh and having a good time, right?
Yeah, but I think, Simon, you actually have to say factual, correct things. I can say anything I want. I make stuff up all the time.
Oh, well, isn't that a ton of fun? Well, you're a Russian-born, Israeli-raised musician before making the move to Canada when you were 17. You taught at Concordia in Montreal, then UBC before traveling south of the border to University of Georgia, as I mentioned in 2016. Do you get the opportunity to come back up to Canada as often as you'd like?
Oh, well, I come back every week. My kids are in Montreal, so
no way.
Yeah, so I'm very committed to being with them. So I every other week I'm teaching from Montreal, and so yeah, it's great. I'm here I get to enjoy the winter.
I didn't realize it was that often. I knew the family was still in Montreal. I mean, that's a fair bit of travel, and maybe we'll be seeing some more of you in Winnipeg now that we have this direct flight, Winnipeg Atlanta, that's been announced.
So
as of September. So maybe you'll be popping back up a little bit more regularly.
Yeah.
So your Agassiz Festival experience started yesterday, a guitar workshop. How'd it go? 3 young players working with you?
Yeah, I don't know what exactly happened. The workshop did not happen yesterday.
It didn't.
No, but I'm looking forward to what is happening. So I'll have a bunch of concerts coming up.
But, you do. All right, so let's chat about those concerts then. First concert takes place tonight. Breaking up the 3 Grieg violin sonatas with some music of South American musicians. Uh-huh. That's a pretty cool contrast. You go from the Norwegian Grieg to these South American musicians, Paraguayan and who else was on the program?
Gustavino from Argentina.
Argentina, yeah.
Yeah. Well, when Paul Marlene asked me to come up with some pieces, South American music doesn't really have very strict distinction between popular folk and classical music. It seems like everything is mixed together, which is kind of what Grieg was trying to do with his Norwegian folk music in his compositions. So like the Grieg is kind of classical, but it's very much classical sonatas with the influence of non-classical music, and this music of Barrios and Gustavino you can say the same for, but just different language.
Different language, but yeah, that similar sort of sentiment. And I mean, it was that. Almost it was in vogue in the Romantic era where nationalism starts to seep into the music. Right. But that was always the case, as you say, with these South American composers. It popular and formal music didn't didn't have that distinction, that line in the sand.
That's right. It still doesn't.
Yeah.
But it's also much less national in a way, right?
Yeah.
It's just that they just take whatever influences and they mix it all together. That's great.
So tomorrow, Winnipeg audiences can look forward to a midday recital. Wonderfully warm music, summer sambas, flamenco dances from southern Spain, and Brazilian arias performed alongside Paul Marlene on the cello. This is a program you've toured with Paul before, right?
That's right.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's just pieces that are a lot of fun to play. It's just,
sells itself.
Yeah, it kind of does. It's we look for every opportunity to play that because it's just beautiful music, really easy to relate to, So there's bossa novas by Antonio Carlos Jobim, and then there's Spanish folk songs and famous Bahianas Brasileiras aria. It's just like really beautiful music for a hot summer afternoon.
And that's exactly what we've had. Things are kind of cooling off, getting a little bit closer to seasonal, but still bringing that warmth through the music. You're busy in the lead up to the festival finale on Saturday. A solo concert titled Fandango features more South American guitar goodness, in addition to some Schubert songs and some Boccherini, a quintet, not the one that we just heard ahead of this interview, but a little earlier in the catalog, G448. Can you tell us about putting this program together?
Yeah, so it's always a combination of putting things that are fun and well known, like the Boccherini Fandango is probably the best known, and pieces that I think are great that need to be heard more. So the Sonata by Carlos Guastavino is one that I'm really passionate about because he's kind of been rediscovered or discovered really for the first time outside of Argentina. He lived until the year 2000 or 2002. He wrote hundreds of beautiful songs for voice and piano. But even in his lifetime, he was kind of writing this music in his small apartment and being celebrated just towards the end of his life and after his death. So now he's been discovered. And for guitarists, he's written us 3 sonatas, which are great. So anyway, I'm really happy to celebrate them. And then I'm doing a duo with an oboe, and that's a 19th century piece, Le Montagnard. So it's like mountain music, perfect for the prairie.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're known for our mountains here
right.
in town. You can hear your passion in terms of this discovery of new music and sharing lesser known composers. Is that something that's always interested you as an artist?
Yeah, it just kind of happens. I'm very selfish, right? I want to play the pieces that I most enjoy learning. So if I hear a piece a lot and I teach it a lot, I'm less likely to program it myself. So that when I'm on tour, I play stuff that I'm excited about that I don't get to hear so much in concerts. But I also play stuff that you would expect in a guitar concert. I think the Barrios is a good example of that, and I love him. He's like our Chopin, right? And his music is beautiful. I almost always play something by him, so it's a combo.
It is a combo, and we get the wonderful experience here in Winnipeg to take in a lot of your playing, these well-known masters and lesser-known works, which I think is just such a joy when it comes to these festival programs, where you really get to not only hear an artist perform, but kind of go back to them multiple times and hear how they program. And I mean, it's just a wonderful opportunity to have you here for not just a solo recital, but for many of them. So Daniel, pleasure having you here in the Classic 107 studio.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to end this conversation with a little bit of your playing, but just before doing so, let me say, when the music comes on, I've got a pair of tickets to tonight's concert. This at the CMU Laudamus Auditorium, which is over on Shaftesbury, part of the CMU campus, where the majority of the Agassiz Chamber Music Festival concerts are happening this year. If you would like to go to tonight's show, 204-336-1071, you can give me a call when the music comes on. But first, Daniel, let me ask you about this 2011 disc of yours featuring the music of Eduardo Sainz de la Maza. Can you tell us more about the composer and what made you want to record his music?
Yeah, well, Sainz de la Maza had a brother, Regino Sainz de la Maza, and he was a much more famous brother. The famous guitar concerto de Aranjuez was written for him. That famous brother was also my teacher's teacher. So I was aware of Eduardo Sainz de la Maza. Eduardo, the shyer brother, I kind of am drawn towards the more introverted composers, it looks like. So very much like Guastavino.
Yeah.
His music is it's beautiful. It's impressionistic music. He was always too nervous to go on stage, so he would just write this music, and often his brother would play it. And also is another composer that's been kind of discovered.
All right, well, here it is, some music of Sainz de la Maza. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me in the studio this morning.
Thank you for having me.